Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Don Fisher. Montana's U.S. senators were on opposite sides of today's vote to break a budget impasse and reopen the federal government. The Senate voted 82-18 to allow a vote on the deal, which is expected to pass, and Congress to fund the government for another 2.5 weeks. Republican Senator Steve Daines voted in favor, knowing that the deal includes long-term funding for the Children's Health Insurance Plan, and said the Democrat shutdown was, quote, pointless. But Democratic Senator John Tester was among the 18 members who voted no, which were mostly Democrats. And a spokesperson for Tester said that the senator does not support another short-term deal that doesn't include funding for community health clinics or the certainty for the military. And the disagreement among Democrats and Republicans mostly centered around the fate of dreamers, immigrants brought illegally into the U.S. as children. CBS News correspondent Mo Lengi has more on the bipartisan compromise from Capitol Hill.
If not on this vote, the yeas are 81. The nays are 18.
The Senate voted to advance a short-term spending bill Monday that will end a 3-day shutdown of the federal government.
In the end, I give our leaders a lot of credit for listening to the ideas that we put forward.
Mr. President.
The majority of Democrats and nearly all Republican senators voted for the legislation that extends federal spending until February 8th. They reversed their opposition after Republicans agreed to bring a bill to the floor to address dreamers, immigrants brought illegally to the U.S. as children.
The Republican majority now has 17 days to prevent the dreamers from being deported.
The deal was reached following meetings Sunday and Monday between Republican and Democratic senators.
Lawmakers were unable to reach a compromise before a midnight deadline on Friday to avert a shutdown. The House must still vote, but the legislation is expected to pass. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders read a statement from the president.
I am pleased that Democrats in Congress have come to their senses.
President Trump could sign the bill that will officially end the shutdown as early as this evening. Mola Lengi, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And the shutdown has forced hundreds of thousands of non-essential government workers off the job. And switching over to weather, more rain and snow are in the forecast for the week. For more on what you can expect for your work week, let's toss it over to Chief Meteorologist Erin Yost, who has a look at our first forecast. Erin?
Yeah, things are going to stay pretty active here for us, Don, over the next several days. As a matter of fact, a lull expected tomorrow, so enjoy it because things will stay pretty busy for us here in the Weather Center. Today, a couple of light scattered snow showers across northwest Montana, really not amounting to much. I think we might see some issues Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday afternoon, a bit further to our west, right there in the panhandle of Idaho. That's where we've got winter storm warnings that have been issued, which does include Lookout Pass. So if travel plans take you over there. After a brief break on Tuesday, we've got that next larger system set to move in Wednesday with milder air. I've got the full forecast and all those details coming up.
All right, thank you, Erin. And the flu shows no signs of slowing down, especially in Flathead County, which leads the state with the most confirmed flu cases this season. The weekly flu report from the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services reports that 89 new cases of influenza in Flathead County came up this week in a span from, last week in a span from January 7th to the 13th. And so far this season, Flathead County has reported 332 cases, which is the most in the state. In Missoula County, there are 87 confirmed cases. Laurel Valley has 44, and Lake with 52 so far this season. State health officials report that there have been 18 deaths in Montana attributed to the illness, and all but 2 have been adults over the age of 65. A Missoula man died in a weekend avalanche while riding a motorized snow bike. Gallatin National Forest Avalanche Center officials report that 46-year-old Raymond John Moe of Missoula was riding with another Missoula resident and 2 Canadians when the avalanche struck. The fatal avalanche happened Saturday east of Rays Peak in Idaho Island Park area and about 28 miles from West Yellowstone. Moe and another rider had gone up about 15 feet off the trail and up the side of a drainage when they triggered an avalanche about 200 to 300 feet above them. The avalanche was about 600 feet wide and an estimated 2.5 feet deep. Moe was the only rider buried in the avalanche, and all the riders had emergency transceivers and rescue gear, and the incident marks the second avalanche-related death in Fremont County within the last 2 weeks. The Big Arm Post Office remains closed as the State Fire Marshal's office continues to look into the cause of a fire that caused an estimated $40,000 of damage to the building. State Fire Marshal Investigator Pat Schlin, who conducted the on-scene investigation, says they're following up on several leads from the January 9th incident. About 25 firefighters from multiple agencies responded and had it knocked out in about an hour after receiving a report of heavy smoke billowing from the roof. The closure forced customers to use the Elmo post office for mail delivery and pickup. And at the time, Chief Gordon Geiser with the Polson Rural Fire District told MTN News that the fire originated inside the building, but says further investigation is being handled by the state fire marshal.
That's a lease building, so the leaseor will repair that building at the government standard. When they do repairs, they're bigger outfits. This one's owned by a property management outfit in Spokane.
And the official cause of the fire is still unknown, with no timetable on how long it'll take to find out. Today, Montana became the first state in the nation to safeguard internet freedom. Governor Steve Bullock has signed an executive order requiring internet providers to commit a net neutrality principle to receive state contracts. Bullock made the announcement this morning in front of a computer science class at Helena High School. The Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, repealed national rules regarding net neutrality last month. Bullock says that by July, any company that gets an internet or data contract from the state must commit to never block or slow down lawful content or services, or give favorable treatment to some content in exchange for payments. A number of internet providers immediately made statements promising to continue following those principles, and Bullock says that Montanans expect a free and open internet.
What we're asking now is to make sure that more than just statements, that they will commit to that. So there are specific requirements of what they will need to adhere to, and also the information that they'll have to give to all Montanans when it comes to net neutrality.
And Bullock also urged leaders from other states to make this same type of commitment for the better of consumers. If you're looking for a way to enjoy some time outdoors this weekend, eat some delicious food prepared by top chefs, and learn how to curl, head over to the Paws Up Ranch in Greeno. The resort at Paws Up will be hosting their annual Winterfest Thursday, January 25th through the weekend. Winterfest has a number of different activities planned, including a curling tournament put on by the Missoula Curling Club, horse-drawn sleigh rides, live local music, and ice skating. Also, food will be provided from renowned chefs like Top Chef winner Brooke Williamson and Paws Up executive chef Sonny Jin. All the chefs will be utilizing local Montana ingredients to create their menu for the event.
As soon as we start to see or as soon as I get a full idea of the 4 seasons here, then we can find what's usable, what's not, and just experiment. That's the fun of cooking. It changes every time, and there are no set rules or responsibilities we have to hold to. We just have to make sure it tastes good and that people enjoy what they're eating.
And the resort at Paws Up is offering special rates for locals for houses and day passes, and they are offering transportation to and from the resort for locals. For more information about reservations and other activities planned for the Winterfest, please go to our website, KAJ18.com. And what your child eats in their first years can impact their brain development and the rest of their life. That's according to a new policy from the American Academy of Pediatrics that is telling parents that they need to consider their child's diet before they're even born. Kenneth Craig has more on the foods doctors say are critical in the first 1,000 days of life.
Getting her 2 young children to eat a healthy diet isn't always this easy, but Jennifer Osterweil is doing the best she can.
When your kid eats healthy, it feels like you're eating healthy.
And those choices in the first 1,000 days of life have a major impact on mental health and brain development, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics.
It can affect the child long term in terms of cognitive development, in terms of attention, behavior.
The AAP recommends exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, and it calls on pediatricians to recommend more than just a good diet, including brain-building nutrients for pregnant women and young children.
Things like choline, and you can get that in eggs, iron, iodine, you get that in red meats, beans, lentils. Protein, you can also do things like peanut butter, of course, lean meats. You also have zinc in the diet, vitamins A, D, and also having B6 and B12.
Can you peel this one?
Osterweil knows with little ones, not every day can be perfect.
But if I can get something a little bit healthier in her with more of a balance, like if I could get a slice of pizza but then have some broccoli on the side.
Do you feel good about that?
I feel okay. It was an okay night.
Thank you, Mama.
She's taking it one meal at a time. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
And the policy also calls on pediatrics to talk with parents about which foods are healthy and nutrient-rich and not just alternatives to junk food. Tax refunds could be delayed because of the government shutdown. During the last shutdown in 2013, more than 90% of IRS workers were furloughed. That led to the delay of $2.2 million in refunds. Another day, another Facebook update. The social media giant is tweaking its algorithm again, this time to prioritize news based on trustworthiness. The company is surveying users about familiarity and trust of various news sources, and Facebook will use that data to recalibrate news feeds. And coming up, see where Montana ranks in highway safety after the release of a new survey. And local law enforcement are working to detect one of the state's darker crimes. That's coming up.